Hey everybody, I'm Jackie. I'm a personal trainer and I'm going to try to get on here about once a week to give you a little bit of education to help answer questions that I get asked about on a regular basis as a trainer. And so the first video I'm going to do is going to be about weight loss, and not just weight loss, but how to keep your body metabolically healthy so you can achieve the weight you want to achieve, and not only achieve it, but also to be able to sustain a healthy weight long term. This topic is so confusing, and I want to take the guesswork out of it for you. So if you feel like you've been getting a little bit frustrated, the needle on the scale is not moving, or the pants are feeling a little tight, and no matter what you do, no matter how low calorie you do, it just does not budge, this is the video for you. Follow along. I'm going to be writing this step down, and it gets a little easier to follow that way. And then at the very end, feel free to ask any questions. I can go into any topic you want, but if anything that I said today doesn't make sense, I'm happy to explain a little more and do another video. So let me know. Here we go.
Change of plans. I went upstairs to grab a notebook and my daughters offered me their lovely whiteboard instead. So that is what I will be using to teach you about this. Let's start with step one. When I was starting out as a trainer about 14 years ago or so, the old school idea of calories in, calories that you're eating and consuming throughout the day, had to be less than your calories out, calories that you were burning off throughout the day through your metabolic processes, through your physical activity. So we really pushed hard the idea of logging your food. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I'll still have people do like the Noom app or the MyFitnessPal just to raise some awareness about what foods have what amount of calories, how much protein, carbs, all of that. Not to make them obsessed with it, but just to raise awareness, especially for people who haven't gone through a weight loss journey before. So this, however, is a little bit too simplistic and doesn't address what's going on with your body's hormones, which aid in weight loss. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I have seen people in tears, especially when women hit middle age and are going through premenopause, menopause. Their bodies start to have certain things going on hormonally, which makes it even harder to lose weight. So a lot of times this group specifically will come in and they'll be eating like 1,000 calories a day, which is too low, but their weight loss is totally stalled. They feel like they look at a cracker and they gain weight. They just cannot get the scale to budge. And so that's why today I want to talk about what we've learned since this era, and the way that insulin production can really wreak havoc on weight loss when it's gone into overdrive. So what happens when we eat sugar? Sugar is one of the most addictive substances on the planet, and the United States, a lot of our foods have a very high amount of sugar, and a lot of it's really sneaky. We don't even understand how much we're consuming. So let's talk about it. So when you consume sugar, your body releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin's job is to take sugar and to bring it to your cells where it gets used as energy. It basically gives you quick energy, which is great if you are consuming it and then you are going to work out. You will have quick energy to burn off immediately. But that's usually not the case. Oftentimes we go back and we sit at our desk or we go to sleep at night and you're not very physically active. So let's talk about that. What happens to all the excess sugar that you don't actually burn off or convert to energy? Any excess sugar is converted to glycogen, which is sugar that is stored in your body for a longer period of time. It's not a quick release sugar. Glycogen is stored in your liver and your muscles. So glycogen is important. If you are going a long time in between meals, then your body runs out of sugar. Insulin goes down, sugar circulated in your system go down, but what your body can then go into is it can go into this glycogen storage system and it can start to use glycogen as energy. It converts the glycogen back to sugar, and then you're able to use it. Okay, so glycogen, you can only store so much glycogen. You only have so much storage room in your liver and your muscles. What happens to the excess sugar that you can't store is glycogen. So you eat a big meal, high sugar, you don't burn it off, and then glycogen's maxed out, then where does it go? Any sugar that can't be stored as glycogen gets converted, you'll know this word, to triglycerides, which go into your fat storage systems. And then that is where it stays until it is burned off through a combination of calorie deficit, not crazy calorie deficit, but you can't overconsume because otherwise your body will never be able to burn off the extra fat. It will store it somewhere. But the important thing is you also have to make sure that your body doesn't have excess sugars circulating around, because if it does, it's going to be really hard to burn fat, and I'm going to explain why. So if you want to burn fat, the first thing you have to do is you have to burn the sugar that's circulating around in your blood sugar. Your insulin has to get to a point where it's low enough, because there's not enough sugar in your system, that it signals to your body, okay, you need to now go to your glycogen storage, and you need to use glycogen as fuel. Okay, well then, you burned off the sugar, you've used all the glycogen that you have. What comes next? That is where you get to burn off your fat as fuel, and that is what gets you into this awesome just kind of weight loss, fat burning mode where you feel like you're being really productive with your efforts. What is often the case is blood sugar levels get too high and stay too high because we consume too much sugar, especially in the US. And when you consume too much sugar, you start to become insulin resistant. And this is what I want to talk about, because this is what most people's problem is. They get themselves into a fat storage mode and not a fat burning mode. So what happens when you have an excess of sugar in your system? Well, your cells at some point say, no, we cannot take on any more sugar. Like, your glycogen storage is full. There's nowhere else for it to go. And your insulin is like, but wait, my job is to lower the body's blood sugar, and something's not working. So I'm gonna keep pumping out more insulin. And that's when we develop something called insulin resistance, because the more often you do this to your body, to your cells, the more the cells are going to be resistant to the insulin. And if that's the case, your body never is able to signal, hey, we can use our glycogen as fuel and we can eventually burn body fat. So even if your calories are really low, if you have a little bit of insulin resistance, your body never gets triggered to turn to the glycogen, to turn to the fat burning stores, because there's too much sugar circulating in your system and you never get to that point. And this is where we've got to be really mindful about the types of meals that we're consuming. Even if they're really low calorie, but they are too high in sugar, you're not going to get the fat loss results that you want. So let's talk about some things that you can do. If you are in that fat storage mode where you feel like you're a little insulin resistant, you can, number one, make sure you are balancing your blood sugar so that your insulin is not going into overdrive. So there's a couple of things you can do to balance your blood sugar. Number one, you can actually wear a continuous glucose monitor. These are getting really big as far as, like, they used to be used for diabetics to monitor their blood sugar levels. But you can also use them if you are not diabetic to help with your, manage your blood sugar levels after meals, to help with your weight loss journey and to hopefully avoid diabetes in the future. So that's a lot of where weight loss is going. Now, if you don't want to go that extreme, you can try some other things first. To keep your blood sugar levels balanced, this is like 101. I always tell my clients, make sure that you are combining a protein or a healthy fat with any carb that you eat. You should never have a carb by itself. That's including like a quote unquote like healthy carb, like an apple, healthy food, right? It's a fruit, you get lots of good vitamins and nutrients in the apple, but it still will spike your blood sugar. So if you're gonna have an apple, have a few almonds with it. And it might seem counterintuitive if you're really used to counting your calories, but like I talked about before, calorie counting is not the be all and end all. You need to get your blood sugar under control. So always balance it out, add a protein or a fat. It'll also make you feel fuller for a longer period of time. One other thing. So the second thing you can do is you can move more. This is where exercise is such a big deal. When you exercise, you immediately, use the sugar that is circulating in your system. It brings your blood sugar levels down, which brings the insulin production down, which then eventually can go into your glycogen stores, which can eventually go into fat burning. You also, when you are exercising and your muscles need energy, let's say your insulin levels are just too high, like your blood sugar is a little bit out of control. When you exercise, muscle contraction actually helps your body use glucose with no need for insulin signaling it to use it. So this is something called insulin independent glucose disposal. So it's so huge to exercise and exercise consistently. And if you don't feel like you have an hour a day, you can exercise right after you eat your meals, because right after you eat your meals, you actually can immediately then pull the blood sugar levels down. And this will help you then later on as you're sitting at your desk or you're not as active to keep your blood sugar levels steadier. So exercise is huge. Okay, one more point I'm gonna make. The last thing I actually wanna talk about, I'll do a video on this later. The evidence that's coming out about the idea of intermittent fasting is huge, because intermittent fasting finally gives your insulin production a break. When you go for a long period of time, like 12 to 16 hours without eating anything, your blood sugar levels will go down, your insulin production will go down, you will start to use glycogen as fuel, you will start to use fat as fuel. So if you're not super into the idea of intermittent fasting, you can play around with doing a morning workout from a fasted state. If you're not somebody who gets kind of really like hypoglycemic easily when you're working out, because you don't have excess sugar circulating to you, so you'll have to use those other forms of energy. So that's a lot thrown at you all at once. Let me know if you have any questions. Once you get this type of eating down, where you're really keeping your blood sugars level and steady throughout the day, not only are you gonna be able to lose weight and fat a lot faster and more efficiently, you're also gonna feel better. Your energy levels will be better throughout the whole day. You're not gonna have mood swings and hunger crashes, and it is unbelievable how much better you feel when you actually fuel your body for this type of performance throughout the day.